Imagine you're standing next to a railway track. A massive train rushes past you, hundreds of tons of steel, moving at incredible speed, perfectly balanced on two thin lines. And in that moment, a simple question quietly slips into your mind. Why doesn't it fall off? You've probably answered that question before without even thinking. Because of the wheel edges, or because it's locked onto the track. It feels obvious. It feels settled. But what if I told you that answer is not just incomplete, it's almost completely wrong? What if the thing you've believed your whole life, the thing most people never question, is hiding a far more beautiful and surprising truth? A truth that doesn't rely on force or brute strength, but on something subtle, almost invisible. Something so clever that once you see it, you won't look at trains or engineering the same way again. Because this isn't just about trains. It's about how the world works when design meets physics. It's about how simple shapes can create intelligent behavior without thinking, without control systems, without anything forcing them to behave. It's about discovering that sometimes the real answer is not louder or more obvious. It's quieter, deeper, and far more elegant than we expect. So stay with me, because by the end of this, you won't just know why trains stay on tracks. You'll feel like you've uncovered a hidden secret that was right in front of you the whole time. Most people imagine a train like a toy, where the little lip on the wheel, the flange, hugs the rail and forces the train to stay in place. It sounds reasonable, almost obvious, but that picture is deeply misleading. In normal operation, the flange is actually not doing the job people think it is. If a train constantly relied on the flange rubbing against the rail, you would hear loud grinding all the time. The wheels would wear out quickly, and the ride would be rough and inefficient. Instead, when trains are moving smoothly, the flanges barely touch the rails at all. They sit there with a small gap, almost like a backup system, waiting quietly in the background. This means the real mechanism keeping the train on track must be something far more subtle and elegant, something built into the geometry of the wheels themselves rather than a simple physical barrier. That hidden mechanism begins with the shape of the wheels. Train wheels are not flat cylinders like car tires. They are slightly conical. Imagine slicing a cone and placing it sideways. This is closer to the actual profile of a train wheel. At first glance, the difference looks tiny, almost insignificant, but it completely changes how the train behaves. Because of this conical shape, when the train shifts slightly to one side of the track, the contact point between the wheel and the rail changes. On one side, the wheel rides on a slightly larger effective diameter, while on the other side, it rides on a slightly smaller one. This difference happens automatically without any external control, without sensors or steering systems. The geometry itself becomes the steering mechanism. Once that shift happens, something fascinating takes place. The wheel on the side with the larger effective diameter has to travel a slightly longer distance in one rotation compared to the other side, but both wheels are fixed on the same axle, meaning they rotate at the same speed. This creates a natural imbalance. One side wants to move faster than the other. Instead of causing chaos, this imbalance gently steers the train back toward the center of the track. It is not a forced correction, but a smooth, continuous adjustment. The train doesn't realize it's off-center. The physics of the system simply guides it back. This is why trains can travel long distances with remarkable stability, even at high speeds, without needing constant mechanical corrections. This effect becomes even more interesting when you think about it in motion. Suppose the train drifts slightly to the right. The right wheel now rides on a slightly larger radius, while the left wheel rides on a smaller one. Because both wheels turn together, the right side covers more ground per rotation, effectively pushing the train back toward the left. As it recenters, the difference disappears and the system stabilizes again. If it overshoots slightly, the process repeats in the opposite direction. The result is a subtle oscillation around the center, so small and controlled that passengers don't notice it. It's like the train is constantly correcting itself, not through force, but through the quiet logic of its design. Underlying all of this is a deeper layer of physics connected to motion itself. When an object is moving forward, it tends to keep moving in that direction unless acted upon by an external force. This idea, often described as inertia, plays a crucial role in the stability of trains. Once the train is aligned with the track and moving forward, it naturally resists sudden changes in direction. The rails guide the path, but the train's inertia helps maintain that path smoothly. The conical wheels provide gentle corrections, while inertia ensures those corrections don't turn into abrupt or unstable movements. Together, they create a system that is both stable and efficient, capable of handling enormous weights and high speeds with surprising grace. The design of the track itself also contributes to this balance. Railway tracks are not just two parallel lines of steel. They are carefully engineered structures with precise spacing, alignment, and curvature. Even small deviations can have significant effects, so engineers design tracks to work harmoniously with the wheel geometry. On curves, for example, the outer rail is often slightly elevated, a feature known as banking. This helps counteract the sideways forces that arise when the train turns. Instead of relying on friction alone, the geometry of the track and the motion of the train combine to keep everything stable. The conical wheels continue to do their self-centering work, while the track geometry reduces the forces that might otherwise push the train outward. As the train moves through curves, the same principle of differing rolling radii becomes even more important. The outer wheel naturally needs to travel a longer path than the inner wheel. Because of the conical shape, this difference happens automatically. The outer wheel rides on a slightly larger diameter, allowing it to cover more distance per rotation, while the inner wheel rides on a smaller diameter. This means the train can navigate curves smoothly without the wheels slipping excessively or requiring complex differential systems like those in cars. The simplicity of this design is part of its brilliance. A single solid axle with fixed wheels can handle both straight paths and curves efficiently, all because of the subtle shape of the wheels. The flange, which many people assume is the hero of the story, actually plays a much quieter role. It acts as a safety mechanism, stepping in only when something goes beyond normal conditions. If the train encounters a sharp curve, a strong arctacan force, or a misalignment in the track, the flange may come into contact with the rail. When it does, it provides a physical boundary that prevents the wheel from slipping off. But this contact is not meant to be constant. In fact, engineers design systems to minimize flange contact because it leads to wear, noise, and energy loss. The goal is to keep the train centered through the natural geometry of the wheels and tracks, using the flange only as a backup. This layered system, conical wheels, rolling radius differences, inertia, and track design, creates a kind of hidden intelligence. There are no sensors measuring the train's position relative to the rails, no onboard computers making adjustments in real time, yet the train behaves as if it is constantly aware of its alignment. The intelligence is not in a processor, but in the physics itself. Every small deviation triggers a response built into the shape and motion of the system. It is a reminder that sometimes the most powerful solutions are not the most complex ones, but the ones that align perfectly with the natural laws governing the world. If you imagine replacing the conical wheels with perfectly cylindrical ones, the system would lose this self-correcting behavior. The train would no longer have a natural tendency to return to the center. Small deviations could grow over time, leading to instability. Engineers would then need to introduce additional mechanisms to compensate, adding complexity and potential points of failure. The conical design avoids all of that by embedding the solution directly into the geometry of the wheels. It is an elegant example of how understanding the underlying physics can lead to designs that are both simple and highly effective. The interaction between the wheels and rails also involves friction, but not in the way people often think. The goal is not to maximize friction, but to control it. Too much friction would waste energy and cause excessive wear, while too little could lead to slipping. The contact between steel wheels and steel rails provides just the right balance, allowing the train to move efficiently while maintaining control. The conical shape ensures that this contact point shifts in a way that supports stability rather than working against it. Even at high speeds, where the forces involved become much larger, this balance continues to hold, demonstrating the robustness of the design. When you step back and look at the entire system, it becomes clear that the real reason trains stay on tracks is not a single feature but a combination of carefully aligned principles. The flange is there, but it is not the main actor. The conical wheels quietly guide the train. The difference in rolling radius provides automatic steering. Inertia smooths out the motion, and the track geometry supports the whole process. Each part plays its role, but none of them alone tells the full story. It is the interaction between them that creates the stability we observe. This perspective changes how you see something as ordinary as a train ride. What seems like a simple mechanical system is actually a finely tuned interplay of geometry and physics. Every time the train moves, these principles are at work, correcting, balancing, and guiding without drawing attention to themselves. The next time you see a train gliding along the tracks, it's not being forced to stay there by a rigid constraint. It is being guided almost gently by the shape of its wheels and the laws of motion in a way that feels less like control and more like cooperation between design and nature. So in the end, what looked like a simple, obvious answer turns out to be something far more elegant. Trains don't stay on tracks because they are forcefully held in place by a rigid edge, but because their very design allows them to cooperate with the laws of physics. The shape of the wheels, the way motion naturally behaves, and the precision of the tracks all come together to create a system that quietly corrects itself. There is no struggle, no constant friction fighting to keep things aligned, just a beautifully balanced interaction where every small shift automatically guides the train back to where it belongs. And that realization changes the way you see not just trains, but the world itself, because it shows that the most powerful solutions are often hidden in simplicity, in geometry, and in understanding rather than force. If you take one idea away from this, let it be this. The world is full of things that seem obvious on the surface, but when you look a little deeper, they reveal a level of intelligence and beauty you never expected. Curiosity is what uncovers those hidden layers, and once you start questioning even the simplest things, you begin to see reality in a completely different way. Thank you for staying with me till the end and exploring this idea together. I hope this sparked your curiosity and made you look at everyday things with fresh eyes. Wishing you the very best of luck in your journey of learning, questioning, and discovering. Keep asking why, because that's where all the real answers begin.